Serious, what's a fact that just blows your mind? A woman once jumped off the 86th floor of the Empire State Building, but the wind pushed her back and she fell on a ledge on the 85th floor. She survived. That the biggest bacteria species known, Thiomargarita namibiensis, can have a maximum diameter of 0.7 mm, which is big enough for you to see it without a microscope. That's insane if you consider that your average bacteria species has a diameter of 0.001 mm. November 2, 2000 was the last time all humans were on the planet together. Since then at least one person has remained on the International Space Station. The V-2 rocket killed more people while actually making it than during WW2 when it was used. Also, Pepsi once had the 6th largest army, navy in the world. The U.S. government has an official for a zombie apocalypse. CONPLAN 8888, also known as Counter-Zombie Dominance, was written in 2011. And just in case you think it's weird bureaucratic humor, the first line reads, "This plan was not actually designed as a joke. Several thousand years ago, the Sahara was actually grassland with massive lakes that rivaled the Great Lakes of North America. Also, at one point the Strait of Gibraltar was closed. This meant that the Mediterranean Sea almost completely evaporated. That neutrinos have mass and every second of every day about 1 billion of them are going through every square inch of your body. But the space between your atoms is so huge there's pretty much a 0% chance they will ever hit you." The way the human brain works. These cells that are powered by tiny jolts of electricity are collectively having conscious thoughts, coming up with morals and empathy and every human behavior. The sound made by the Krakatoa volcanic eruption in 1883 was so loud it ruptured eardrums of people 40 miles away. Traveled around the world 4 times. And was clearly heard 3,000 miles away. That's like you standing in New York and hearing a sound from San Francisco. That if you could fold a piece of paper 45 times, you could reach the moon. Ant biologists still don't know the maximum lifespan of most ant queens. They just live too long to keep track. And they're not too easy to keep in captivity. The longest one on record is like 30 years old. And there could easily be species that live longer than that. If the timeline of the universe up to now was compressed into a year starting on New Year's Day, Homo sapiens would appear at 11:54 p.m. on December 31st. That our galaxy and the Andromeda are going to collide a long time from now to form Milkdromeda. That and that our universe will slowly die one day. There'll be no galaxies, no stars, no nebulae, nothing. It will all die out and leave nothing but black holes and dwarf stars. Some animal abilities are truly amazing to me. There's a type of lizard called the axolotl that can regenerate lost limbs in a matter of months. And there's also a jellyfish called the immortal jellyfish that is, well, immortal. When they are attacked or when they get old, they can somehow revert to when they were babies and start growing up again. Also, some animals can live without a head. A chicken once lived 18 headless months. And a tortoise? What's the difference? Lived 1. If an underwater bubble is collapsed by loud sound, light is produced and no one knows why. The 10th President of the USA, John Tyler, born in 1790, has 2 living grandsons. That one guy who tried to assassinate Andrew Jackson. He had 2 guns and both of them jammed. Best part is that the Secret Service had to pull Jackson off the assassin because the latter was beating the former to death with a cane. Martin Luther King, Jr. and Anne Frank were born in the same year. Also, that same year, Betty White was already 7 years old. How a computer does what it does. Blows my mind how ones and zeros can do so much. Maybe I'm uneducated, but still mind-blowing. When something is in orbit, that essentially means it is perpetually falling. A gram of uranium is roughly 20 billion calories. Mind was blown. You are outnumbered in your own body. The bacteria present on your body outnumber your own cells. We wouldn't even be able to survive without most of them. Mitochondria is only passed down by mother, so there's a concept of mitochondrial Eve. All humans today have their mitochondrial DNA derived from her. If time travel were possible, you would need a time and space machine to survive the trip. Otherwise, when you traveled back in time, The planet would be at a different point in its rotation around the Sun, and our solar system would be at a different point in space as it rotates. Which means you'd travel back in time and be in an empty part of space. Vacuum decay could completely annihilate the entire universe at any moment, and we wouldn't even see it coming. One moment you're doing your thing. The next you and everything else just blips completely out of existence. The biggest thunderbolt ever recorded in the universe was 150,000 li long. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is 100,000 li long. And it came from a blazar, which is an insanely big black hole. M87. And yes, this is the black hole we took in photo. It is way bigger than our Milky Way's supermassive one. Every 2 years there's a convention that reunites all the cities called Newcastle in any language. This convention is called Newcastles of the World. It even has his own website. That scientist was able to figure out what a girl looked like, where she was from, and even her last meal from just a piece of chewing gum. I recently got my cat some catnip treats, and as I was Googling what to buy, I found that catnip actually works as an insect repellent. In fact, catnip is 10x more Republican than DEET. Sometimes I really just imagine how small I am. Imagine a bird's eye view going straight up from you. Bamboo just blows my mind. All bamboo of the same strain bloom at the same time around the world, regardless of climate conditions or geographical locations. Most species bloom with huge intervals lasting up to 65 to 120 years. It's still a huge mystery, leaving scientists to speculate whether bamboo has some sort of internal alarm clock. So a species of bamboo that grows somewhere in America blooms at the same time as the ones in China, even though the conditions vary. It's amazing. Also really cool how it grows. All bamboo in a single patch of land share the same roots and are, in a way, all the same plant. I am not a herbologist, or whatever, so I could be misunderstanding things. The smartphone that you hold in your hand has more technological strength than the Apollo 11 lunar ship. Americans eat 1.5 billion pounds of potato chips each year. Just Americans. Not world. When you look up at the stars, you are looking at millions of years into the past. Modern humans existed for some 250,000 years. And civilizations really only started in the past 5,000 years. Before that, all humans did was hunt for food and live in caves, with no agriculture at all. I don't understand why there is something instead of nothing. It would make more sense if there was nothing. A human could swim through a blue whale's veins. Edit. Only some of them. That there are people in the world who don't like music. Not one specific type, but music as a whole. That both blows my mind and disturbs me. Charles Darwin is considered to be the father of evolution. But he never once used the word evolution in his masterpiece book On the Origin of Species. A concept more than a fact, but how the whole body functions. Like, even just your heart beating in order to get blood round your body. Let alone everything else working in sync. And most of it is done without us even noticing. It's no wonder some are flawed. Some people don't have an inner monologue. Like they literally don't have a voice in their head. That we all die. A friend died the other day, and it reminded me of the brief moment that we are alive. If you are reading this, maybe send a message to a friend that might be lonely or could be isolated. You will be doing a kind act. That if you have a cucumber, which is 99% water, and you begin to dry it out, by the time it will be 98% water. It would have had lost 50% of its mass. When you dream, one part of your brain is making up the story. And another part is experiencing those events and is genuinely surprised by all the twists in the plot. Due to the rate at which light travels, all the stars in the sky may not actually be there and may just be the light at which once was. If you think too hard about it, we wouldn't know the sun was destroyed for 8 minutes. During that time it wouldn't physically be there but would appear as such in our sky. In WW1, the German force that invaded Belgium had more men in it than the entire Roman army had at the height of its power. Our sun will become a red giant in about 5 billion years, engulfing Mercury, Venus, and Earth in the process. Possibly Mars too. Essentially, our native planet will be vaporized. I know that won't happen soon. But it does kinda make our current problems seem fleeting when I really think about it. Ounce for ounce. Bone density is stronger than steel. How cameras work. I mean, how do you even get the idea to invent something that just, shoots a photograph?